there. Here I am again, Sister Paula, your friend and that old Pentecostal transgendered preacher in Sister Paula's Pentecostal Holy Ghost Kitchen, where we serve up the spiritual food in abundance. And today we are going to serve up the spiritual food in abundance, only it's going to be on a little bit different type of spiritual food than what you're used to hearing. This program is a gospel ministry. I am on this program to fulfill the call that God gave me to preach the gospel many years ago. However, I would not have been ready to sit in front of this camera and do this program without the show business training that I received from my two wonderful guests today that you're going to see in just a few moments, and you're going to fall in love with them. If it wasn't for the training that I received from my friends Darcelle and Roxy in show business training of a number of years, I would not be sitting in front of this camera today. And my show business training as an entertainer was just as much a part of God's preparation for this worldwide television podcast ministry as was all of the many years of biblical studying or biblical training that I've also had in my life. Sister Paula, the person you're looking at right now, is a combination of all of my life's experiences, and without all of the life experiences, this program would not be here today. With just the biblical training and out the show business training, or vice versa, I would not be sitting in front of this camera. At any rate, it is our tradition to do our coffee clatch toast. So do you have your coffee ready? As speaking of entertainers, as Janis Joplin would say, here's to you, man. For the benefit of those of you in other parts of the world, Darcelle 15 is a nightclub here in Portland, Oregon, which has been going for 40 years. And Darcelle started it over 40 years ago, bought a little Skid Row tavern in the Old Town section of Portland called Demas Tavern, and over the years it has evolved into a glamorous cabaret nightclub featuring talented female impersonators. And in Portland, Oregon, if you're in Portland, Oregon and listening to this, you know exactly what I'm talking about. The nightclub Darcelle 15, where I got over 10 to 12 years of show business training, like I said, in preparation for this ministry, in Portland, Oregon, is the most popular entertainment spot in Portland. And it's not a gay bar. It attracts people, heterosexual people and family people from the suburbs who celebrate birthdays and anniversaries and special occasions and bachelorette parties and all of that. Darcelle's is the place to go. Years ago, the world famous Finocchio's in San Francisco was the place where tourists went. Well, Darcelle 15 in Portland is a place where people go to celebrate, and has been the place to celebrate in Portland, Oregon for over 40 years. Now, I met Darcelle and Roxy around 1980. At that time, I was a church secretary at Metropolitan Community Church of Portland. But all through my life, I have been a fan of the late, great Sophie Tucker. Many of you will remember Sophie Tucker as the last of the Red Hot Mamas. And for years, I idolized Sophie Tucker. Sophie Tucker was one of the women who played a powerful, profound part of my life's experiences. A great entertainer. And I met Darcelle and Roxy at a club where I was entertaining, doing some Sophie Tucker things, and Darcelle and Roxy themselves are going to share that with you in just a couple of minutes when we go into the club with my interview with Darcelle and Roxy. Darcelle and Roxy are partners. When Roxy and Darcelle met, Roxy comes from an extensive show business background in Las Vegas, Nevada, as a choreographer, training showgirls for the big shows in Las Vegas. So when Darcelle bought the Demas Tavern For a while there, it was kind of a lesbian bar, and then they started doing melodramas there, and they were trying to find something to turn the club into that would be different and unique. And Roxy, who had worked as a choreographer in Las Vegas shows, had also been to Finocchio's, the famous female impersonator club in San Francisco. Roxy came up with the idea, number one, of turning the bar into a nightclub featuring female impersonators. And he said if it worked in San Francisco at Finocchio's, it would work here in Portland. And also, it was Roxy that came up with the name Darcelle, and you'll hear Roxy himself sharing that in a couple of minutes also, how the name and the personage of Darcelle, the glamorous entertainer, evolved. Roxy himself will share that with you in just a few moments, so hold steady, you're in for a real wonderful treat. And two more wonderful people I have never known in my life are Darcelle and Roxy, and I am proud that God has used them as a part of my preparation for the Sister Paula television ministry, which combines my biblical training, my show business training, and my call to preach the gospel. God uses entertainment to bless people and help people just as much as God uses preachers behind a pulpit. And I've said it for years that what Darcelle and Roxy do in the nightclub at Darcelle 15 is every bit as much as spiritual as what any minister does behind the pulpit of any church. But I remember a little bit of the Sophie Tucker material. Sophie Tucker's material was risque, but I insist it was not vulgar. But there was a number that Roxy just loved that I did when they first saw me. And when Roxy saw me as a potential to fill in for Darcelle, who hosted the shows and did the stand-up comedy when Darcelle was on vacation or out of town, but Roxy heard me do the Sophie Tucker material, you know, and how am I ever going to grow old with all my boyfriends keeping me young? You know, that was one of the songs that he loved. You know, she said, I tried to spend an evening sitting knitting by the fire, and I wind up with some young guy in a taxi named Desire. At any rate, let's, without any further hesitation, delay or ado, we take you now to the world's famous Darcelle 15, the place to celebrate, a fantastic cabaret entertainment bar, which for 40 years has been loved by many, many prominent political and heterosexual people in the city of Portland. Here we go.
Sister Paula.
Right.
We met you, what, how many years ago has it been?
We met in 19...
You're sure it was 19 and not 18?
No, not quite that far back. I think the first time that you saw me was at Metropolitan Community Church when you came out there.
Yes, you know why? Because you were serving food to the homeless, just like you always do.
Well, I don't remember that particularly.
Well, you were serving in the kitchen.
We were serving
food.
Yeah, it was some kind. Wasn't it a thing, a Portland Town Council meeting or something?
They were homeless.
Oh, okay. And I remember, but there was Dana, who was in the shows here then at the time, said to me, quoted you, said, Darcelle just says that, you said that about me. Darcelle said that you have a heart of gold. Every time I go out there to the church, she's just working and all of that, and that it made an impression. And
an impression on me that you were working so hard. And you really were serving, and I do recall it, they weren't homeless, it was a meeting.
It was a community meeting of some kind.
And we were there and enjoyed the food, and you served quite well. Thank you.
Oh, well, all right. And but I think that was before I was in the CCSM show. Remember, there was a show. It was in 1980. Wow. The Counseling Center for Sexual Minorities, a gay and lesbian hotline, did an annual benefit here. And I was involved in Metropolitan Community Church, and I came down and did a Sophie Tucker routine. I remember Joe Anderson played the piano. The first time I walked out on the stage here, and the first thing I said was, brothers and sisters, hallelujah. Here's Sister Paula going to do some preaching to you. It's from a Sophie Tucker routine, never let the same dog bite you twice. And the other song we did was Mr. Siegel, Make It Legal for Me. And you came up to me after the show and wanted to know if I'd want to come down and do a guest spot once in a while.
That was my duty. I had to do that. You were talented and grand, and I said, oh, there she is. That should be in our show.
Well, then a year went by, and
let me say we met you then. A year went, but you're doing all the thing I'm going to tell you. Where we met you, really saw you work very, very hard, was at Wild Oscars. In a little bar uptown.
Mm-hmm.
I suppose now your image of Sister Paula is gone. Well, she worked in a little bar up the street, and it was called Wild Oscars.
Right.
And Roxy and I saw you hit the stage, and there wasn't a stage; it was a dance floor, if you remember.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like we were here, you were here. I mean, it was such a small place.
Yeah, I remember that.
And you did your routine, and we fell in love.
The Sophie Tucker.
No, with you, not Sophie Tucker.
No, I knew that, but I was
know.
doing the Sophie Tucker routine.
Okay, yeah. I know that.
Yeah, we fell in love with you doing
Sophie Tucker
routine because you were nonstop. First of all, I couldn't believe that there was someone around who remembered Sophie Tucker, let alone do all of her material for 2.5 or 3 hours.
Every single word was correct from her recordings.
Yeah,
every word.
From her recordings. So I was impressed, and that's when I said, "Oh, we've got to have Sister Paula do a guest spot and come down in our show."
Absolutely.
I really wasn't. They weren't calling me Sister Paula then.
No, they weren't. No,
that came later.
Was it Paula then?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I've lived as Paula since 1963. That's been my identity.
Okay,
yeah.
so it was. But that's right. You weren't Sister Paula.
Yeah,
then.
Sister Paula came in 1980 when I was in Eugene. Somebody started calling me that.
But you've threatened me over the years if I didn't call you Sister Paula. So I can't help it. Even take it back that far. Even when you were sister, when you're just Paula, you've threatened me.
Oh, really? I don't remember that.
Well, a Christian woman shouldn't threaten people. Don't you better call me Sister Paula. It's in good fun. You did.
Oh, okay.
No,
You're getting very serious.
Well, one of the performers in the Catch a Rising Star show, Misha Peru, from Peru, yeah, she used to call me Mr. Paula.
Oh,
and she's the only person I would let get away with that.
Yes,
and,
I do remember that too. Is that really? You didn't like that idea at all?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
But a year after I appeared here on that first time in 1980, in 1981, they did the CCSM, the Counseling Center for Sexual Minorities Benefit, again. And I came and did a spot, and I saw a flyer on the table said new talent, catch a rising star. Yeah. And so I asked Roxy about that, and then so I started doing the spot in that show. It was on Monday and it was on Tuesday nights then. Later on, it was Monday and Tuesday, and so then when Champagne, who was hosting the show then, about a year or so later, decided not to do it. You put me in that spot.
That's right. I said that. And then, Paula, you're the next girl up, is what I said.
Yes.
And I said, I'm sure that you'll do it even better than Champagne.
Well, Paula, Sister Paula, you also joined our show.
Yes.
On Fridays and Saturdays and during the week.
That's right.
You joined our show. And when I was, which never happened, because I've always been on stage, but when I, for some reason or other, wasn't there, you did the emceeing.
Yeah, when you went on vacation or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. It's an interview with us. So let us talk.
I'm better than I used to
And you
be.
did, not yet, you aren't. Sister Paula, or Paula then,
right,
would take that audience and right here, and they sat with their mouths open listening to Sophie Tucker, and Sister Paula, do you sing on your when you're in your ministry?
Yes,
on camera?
on the television. Yeah.
Do you?
Mm-hmm.
Well, it was kind of wonderful to hear your voice because it was obviously untrained, but you did a job. You stayed on key, and you did a job, and the audience loved it, and that's really very important.
Well, I'm not really a singer per se.
Oh no, we know that.
And it's more or less, comedy.
I'm giving you a compliment. You did a good job.
Oh, thank you. I didn't know if you were
take over because you're not going to get a word in edgewise.
That's all right.
You're doing just fine.
But anyway, but the club here, Darcelle 15, has been here for 43 years now.
Yeah.
Something like that.
43 years.
And
1967, and we started on a little tabletop over in the corner of the room. And
it was a little neighborhood tavern then.
well, it was a Skid Row tavern. Let's put it where it was.
Yeah,
It was
ultra.
it
I like
was-
to say it was ultra Skid Row.
Oh yeah, it was
We were ultra.
winos in the doorway, and but you know they were our friends, so we had no trouble at all with them. We had to move them out of the way every now and then so customers would come through, and we were a lesbian bar at that time.
Right, that's right. It was Demas Tavern.
Demas Tavern, and we were a lesbian bar.
And how did the name, naming the club Darcelle 15 come about?
Well, that was way after when our shows started. That was in '74. I was Empress in '73. Actually, I lost in '72. I won in
Running for Empress.
for Empress, and I had no name in '72, and so Roxy and Mame sat down and said, "We can't call you Madame Demas. We can't call you Walter. You're in a
You
dress."
were Madame D for a long time.
Yeah, Madame
D. We
Madame
used
for
to-
Demas.
In the D for Demas.
Right.
And so she was Madame D for a long time.
And then you tell them what you finally came up. You guys came up with the name.
And so.
Weren't you doing melodramas here then?
No,
we
I was
talked
doing one
about it.
outside of the club.
But he had done them outside the club, and I had seen a lot of melodrama in resort places like Jackson Hole, and up in Montana there was a lot of melodrama theater, and I thought that was really cool. Maybe we should do, had the type of atmosphere then that looked like that's what we should be doing here is melodrama. And then we decided, no, that's not quite what it's all about. And so anyway, we got this image put together, and we got this show, but we still didn't have a name for.
How did you get the idea of doing
Madame
female
D.
impersonation shows
Our
here?
friend Tina Sandell was did shows at the Magic Garden.
Yeah, I knew that, yeah.
And invited us over there, and we went over.
Well, Mame had said at one point, David Hamilton had said, because we were buddies and all three of us used to hang out, he'd said, well, you ought to do something crazy and wild that Portland hasn't seen before, and certainly hadn't seen a place like ours here. So he said, do something crazy. Well, I'd seen a show in San Francisco a couple times called
Pinocchios, yeah.
And I guess I think you were familiar with Pinocchios.
Yes.
And I was impressed. I couldn't believe that first of all, I'd never seen a female impersonator. And so I was impressed. My gosh, here's these guys all dressed up and being fun and crazy. And I really liked that show. I thought it was very artful and entertaining. So I told both David and Hamilton and Walter at that time, and I said, we've got to think about this female impersonator thing. And I don't know anything much about that, but we both knew how to perform and knew theater. Darcelle and Walter at that time had been in a lot of local theater and he always played doctors and lawyers and did male roles.
One after the
Portland Civic Theater, yeah.
At
One
Portland Civic.
one attorney, one doctor. One attorney, one
So
doctor.
anyway, this was a new experience for him too, and so my thought was, okay, he's a big man, he's tall, he's broad, and everything. He should try to be a character, and should be some kind of a caricature. And so I said, the more if you're going to do this female impersonator thing, you've got to be so big and so broad that people can't help but notice you.
Exaggerated glamour.
That's
Exaggerated
right.
glamour.
Mm-hmm.
Too much makeup, too much jewelry, too much hair, too much wardrobe. And I said, believe me, they'll remember that, and you want to be remembered. That's one of the first rules of show business #1, is to do something where the people are going to remember you. So that's what we came up with, and we designed that look. And then the next thing was a name. How do you call this new image? Okay, well, Mame, again, David had said, well, it looks French. It looks French to me.
Looks French.
Looks French. And I thought, French. Oh, by golly, I remember when I was working in Las Vegas.
You were a choreographer in
I
Las
was a
Vegas before you
choreographer.
came to Portland, right?
Before I came to Portland. And I'd worked with a lady, an actress who had just come over from Paris, called Denise Darcelle.
Denise Darcelle, I remember
And
her.
she had just completed a movie at that time too called Westward the Women.
Westward the Women,
which
yes.
she played a big role in. So I liked her really well, and I thought she was lots of fun. So I thought French, Denise Darcelle.
Denise.
But I thought Denise. No, Denise sounds kind of petite and small, and that Denise doesn't fit this new figure we've created here. So I said, okay, Darcelle. How about Darcelle? When he said French, I said, oh, French Darcelle. Okay, that's it. And anyway, I called him Darcelle. And we felt that it was, she spelled her name Darcel.
Right.
And we felt that it should be a little bit more French in the spelling. So we did Darcelle at the end, which really made it doubly French. Anyway, she introduced herself at the next showing as Darcelle.
But you have to remember that I had to call and ask you how to spell it.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Then when she did and introduced herself as Darcelle, and then she said, "Oh, by the way, I wasn't working with the show all the time at that time. I had another show that I was working with, both at the Hoyt Hotel and at a place called Sunny's Club, which of all things was a strip club, topless bar. So he called me one night. How do you spell Darcelle? And she didn't remember. So anyway, she barely remembered her name, the new name. But after that, her audiences, it stuck. And all of a sudden, nobody ever heard Walter again. And no matter where we go or where we went, everybody always calls him Darcelle. So people still today say, well, what if they meet him out of costume? We'll say, well, what do we call him? They'll whisper in my ear, what do I call him now? And I said, well, I tell you what, his favorite saying is, it's cost me a lot of money to be Darcelle, and Darcelle will work just fine whether I'm in costume or out of costume.
That's right.
And so I said he would love to be called Darcelle out of costume.
Once in a while, somebody will come along that knew you when and will say Walter.
Yes.
But other than that, you're always called
It all
Darcelle.
depends on who it is.
Yeah.
It doesn't bother me that I'm called Walter after my given name, but if I'm dressed, I prefer Darcelle. And sometimes customers will come in with a group, and they will prove to their party that they know me
On a personal basis.
and they'll call me Walter.
Oh, right, yeah.
Uh-huh.
So I used to get a little bit on edge over it, but it doesn't matter because I know why they're doing it. So I just go on about my business with them, talking about other
Right.
things. So, but if people do it to be sarcastic, and they do that, then when
Then they're in trouble,
they're in trouble. They're going to get told. They're going to get told.
So when did the 15 come along?
1973, I was elected
1973.
the 15th Empress of Portland.
Yep. The Imperial Sovereign Rose Court, which that's national now, isn't it? The organization.
Well, there's
it started in San Francisco, I know.
no, ours started here. There's a border between Oregon and California.
Right.
And we are our
But I
own-
thought they were doing it there before they did it.
No, actually, we are in our 50th now.
There's always
No, they were. Don't argue with that one because you'll get
I'll get into
somebody
trouble.
into trouble.
Over that. That's
We fought with California a lot over that. So
The late, great Sophie Tucker used to say that she was the only blonde that has been preferred by 2 generations of gentlemen, she said, and now I'm starting on my 3rd. Well, that's the story of my life, too. Darcelle and Roxy and I, all 3 of us, have worked through several generations, and we're starting on our 3rd generations, and we're still going. This one piano player a few years ago that came to Darcelle's, who was a piano player for an entertainer, said that to me, Darcelle and Sister Paula are trendsetters, and I am very pleased and proud to be a part of being a trendsetter in my own sphere, even as Darcelle has been in her own sphere. And you're going to hear more about Darcelle in the role of the trendsetter, opening up and pioneering things for the community that we never had before the next time we come into your home. That's right. We're not done. We said we're going to continue on the next program with the same interview, talking about being trendsetters, and you don't want to miss it. And if you live outside of the Portland area, if you live in Australia or whatever part of the world you live in, when you visit Portland, Oregon, you owe it to yourself to enjoy the fabulous cabaret entertainment at Darcelle 15 in Portland, Oregon. At any rate, I'm through for now, and I can't wait for you to see the rest of this wonderful interview with these wonderful, talented, gifted show business people whom God has used to help me get ready to do the Sister Paula television ministry, which thousands all over the world are enjoying today. We'll see you later. God bless.